What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help support the channel. So let's start this video with the reigning Arnold champion and also the former Miss Olympia, Derek Lensford. So the dream team with Grego, that Brazilian trainer who also trained Derek for most part of his Arnold Ohio prep this year. They are back in business for this upcoming Pittsburgh Pro. And Grego is a guy who Derek acknowledged publicly, especially in his videos, leading into this year's Arnold Ohio prep, and also in the interviews that Derek did on multiple podcasts, especially after his Arnold Ohio win. So we are now 17 days out from this year's mighty Pittsburgh Pro, and actually the first ever Pittsburgh Pro. So that is gonna allow Derek to go through 8 to 10 days of solid training before him and Chris Aceto, they try and bring down that intensity of training, which normally happens during the last week before the show. So many people out there believe that a whole different level will be unlocked by Derek Lensford at this year's Pittsburgh Pro, even in comparison to this past Arnold. And by the way, Derek himself released some new footage from that FIBO tour. So even for that far out of the show, the man looked so big and so freaky. So the most anticipated thing about Derek and Pittsburgh Pro is that how his quads are gonna look like this time around. Will he be able to show up with even better and even bigger quads for this upcoming Pittsburgh Pro? Which by the way is something that seems highly unlikely, because there just wasn't enough time between the Arnold and this year's Pittsburgh Pro to put on some real size. But let's just not forget that many of us thought that Derek just won't be able to make that much improvements, especially in his lower half, from the Olympia last year to this past Arnold Ohio. But the man just proved everyone wrong and just shocked the entire bodybuilding world, not just by showing up at his all-time best, but by beating the reigning Miss Olympia Samson Dao. And just keep in mind, it isn't me who's saying that his quads are gonna be bigger. It's the legend Jay Cutler, who saw him there in person at FIBO Germany. So he's easily gonna be the favorite going into this show. And all that's left to see at this point is how this peak goes for him. Next up, we have an update from the reigning Miss Olympia, Samson Dao. Just a week and a half until Samson switches the gear one more time, and that means ramping up the training for this upcoming off-season and also getting back to his real off-season protocol, and that means getting back on the gear and the PEDs. So being totally off for 9 weeks and still being able to maintain that kind of size, where he weighs 305 plus pounds, and that is right now, that is simply outrageous and unreal. I do not think there has been any other guy in the history of bodybuilding who maintained this kind of size and roundness while being totally off everything, all the gear, all the PEDs. And that is why I have said this so many times, that Samson Dao is a rare breed. Now he has a real challenge in front of him, especially after what we saw at this past Arnold Ohio. The thing is, the judges picked a relatively smaller but more conditioned and overall a more detailed guy compared to Samson, prioritizing conditioning over size, which only means one thing, that Samson has to come in sharper and more detailed than ever before. Now he doesn't have to get any bigger, because he already outweighs guys like Hadi Choopan and Derek by 50 plus pounds. So the Samson Dao that we saw at this year's Arnold Finals, that was pretty damn solid and extremely impressive. And you can maybe even argue that it was a better look than even his Olympia winning physique from last year. And that is the reason only 1 point separated Derek and Samson Dao at the finals. So cannot wait to see Samson shift the gears one more time into this year's off-season. And he's gonna be 330 pounds in absolutely no time. Guys, we have a limited time offer. If you buy any flavor of Bloodshot, you are gonna get a free Dying Breed t-shirt. The discount code is on the screen right now, and use the code FAZI10 to get 10% extra discount. So the Persian wolf Hadi Choopan posted this story on his Instagram, calling somebody out. Well, can you guys make a wild guess whom he's referring to here? Because the thing is, neither the media or any of the other top bodybuilders have been talking about Hadi Choopan. I'm gonna say as much as, let's say, Derek, Samson, Nick Fokker, Martin, possibly Good Vito, and Andrew Jacked. Because all these guys, they have been on the tour for these past couple of months. So there are gonna be several months until Hadi is gonna step back on the stage for the very first time this year. And that is gonna be at the Olympia this year. And all this off time, that is supposed to work greatly in his favor. Now, as he was the defending Arnold champion, it probably would have been a very difficult call to sit out of that show this year, especially because of that $500,000 paycheck. But the man just focused on making the improvements for this year's Miss Olympia. And we did saw last year that competing more than once in 1 year, that did not do Hadi Choopan any good, especially at the Olympia, because that was like his 4th show in 12 months. He just wasn't as big and as freaky, especially in the side shots, as he usually is. And Samson Dao, he kind of overshadowed him with his size, and that too for the very first time since both these guys have been competing against each other. But that being said, Hadi being off and still tying the scores at the prejudging, that just goes to show us how good this man really is. So it will be a dream come true for all of us fans if Hadi comes in similar to his Arnold High version from last year, but maybe with a better back. While Samson and Derek, they also show up at their all-time best. It's gonna be a battle to remember for ages. Now Hadi Choopan is totally unbeatable in some areas, like the depth and the detail in his chest, in his abs. His most muscular is just so damn powerful. A few years ago, Hani Rambod made this statement that Hadi Choopan can only put on a certain amount of muscle on his frame to have that perfect balance. Otherwise, he's gonna start to look a bit blockier. So anything above 235 pounds, that is gonna make him look a bit blocky. So what do you guys think is that stage weight for Hadi Choopan? Next up, we have an update from Ronald Gordon, the guy who finished 4th at this past Detroit Pro, his first show of the year. And for all we know, he's still in the prep mode, and he's gonna go for this upcoming Pittsburgh Pro and probably do some other shows as well. Now this guy definitely has some of the best arms in the men's open right now. But it is kind of just too bad that from the size perspective, from that criteria, he's still quite behind. And that was pretty evident in Detroit Pro this year. Now he was the most aesthetic guy in that lineup, but he was lacking on the muscularity as well as the thickness aspect against all of these other top 3 guys, namely William Bonac, Sazan Hirati, and James Hollingshead. Now the lineup at this year's Pittsburgh Pro, that is gonna be so much deeper than what we saw at Detroit Pro. The caliber of competition here is just so damn high. So Ron did just 1 show last year, and just because he needed more size, he went back to the drawing board, and he returned to the stage after 1 year at the same show. And the experts out there still said that he needs another 10 to 15 pounds in order to compete at the highest level and potentially win a pro show and qualify for the biggest bodybuilding show in the world. So there is no denying the fact that his shape is just so goddamn insane. Very small waistline, wide lats, huge arms, amazing stage presence. And this year he seemed to have a bit more balance top to bottom. But that being said, his lower half, that is still behind, especially in comparison to his upper half. But if he starts working with a guy like Milos Sarcev, just for the sake of putting on more size, that would be such an awesome project. Matthew Grego is looking like an absolute monster, just as he starts the off-season push for the year ahead. So he made top 10 at the Olympia last year, and the way he showed up at this year's Arnold, and he placed top 3, that was so unpredictable. And then he went on to beat Wesley Vazers, and in Wesley's own words, that was his best physique to date at this year's Detroit Pro. That simply means that Matt has finally arrived on the scene at the top level, and the man is only gonna move up in his Olympia placings from here onwards. So his coach Chris Aceto, he has worked his wonders, working with his physique over the years, and he rates him extremely high. The one biggest battle that Matt Greggo is gonna face, like every other tall guy in classic physique, that is fighting to make that weight cutoff, fighting to make the improvements with that weight cap hanging over your head. And that is the reason he just cannot afford to go too heavy, even in the off-season. Now he has already maxed out his classic physique weight limit, but the man still managed to make some very noticeable improvements from one show after another. So the lower half on Matt Greggo, that is just outrageous. Crazy squats with deep separation and the ability to get bone dry and so goddamn shredded. Now we do not know whether Grego will ever do an open bodybuilding show, because all of us would love to see him against the big boys, and maybe he should give it a go in one of those post-Olympia shows after the Olympia this year. So this is the first time in his classic physique run where he was able to qualify for the Olympia so early during the season. So his final package for this year's Miss Olympia, that I believe is gonna be such an awesome package. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.